Hey, what's up, guys? Thank you for clicking on this video. This is Seth Kills, otherwise known as Nick. And today we're going to be talking about House of Dragon, Episode 8. And it did not disappoint. This has to be by far my favorite episode in the series so far. It just filled a lot of heart. And I don't know, Viserys did a really good job. And it was a really emotional episode, I say. There's probably at least two or three times in the show, in this episode, that he kind of got a little bit teary eyed, I should say. And I mean, the episode itself was an hour and I think 20 minutes, and there was no dead time at all. Every single scene had a point, progressed the story, either did that or built more character, and I loved it, to be honest. Had a lot of great scenes, a lot of good progression with characters, and we even get introduced to the older characters as far as the kids are concerned, where you get an older Aegon and an older Aemond. And the person who plays Aemond, holy crap, did he steal the show when he was in scenes. Um, the character himself, like person who plays him, I guess it's his name is Ewan Mitchell. He does such a good job, but he looks a lot older than the rest of the kids, like like a decade older. But he does such a good job with this character. He's like a mini Damon, and Damon and Aemon, they actually have some good scenes together in this episode. Um, and it was really like a love letter to Viserys in a lot of ways. And yeah. I mean, out of 10, I would have to give this one close to a 10, if not, well, let's just say a 9. 9, pretty damn close to a 10, in my opinion. But this is going to be our last episode with Viserys, and it was a very good goodbye for him in this episode. He actually got a little bit of, I don't know, I guess he got what he's been really wanting, or at least he got a brief window of it, where he sees his whole family getting along, and he hears them kind of reconciling, and it looks like he has hope for the future. Um, but he had so many good scenes in this episode. But the episode starts off. You actually start off with the queen that should have been, which is the Princess Valerion, which is Corlys's wife. I keep forgetting her name, but she's having this meeting with the Maester, and they're talking about Corlys being missing. And I guess it's 6 years later now, which is another time jump. And the brother of Corlys Valerion is basically pleading his case with the queen that should have been, letting her know that if his brother is dead, that he's the only one that has the right claim for the throne of being the Lord of the Tides. And she, basically disagrees. He wants. She just basically doesn't think that her husband is dead, which is, obviously, you want to keep hope in that situation. But the brothers, I don't know what his goal here was. I guess just, kind of giving her a heads up, but I think he's a little bit overstepping since they don't have any definitive answers on if Corlys is actually dead. So they get a little bit of, good dialogue here, and, they, talk a little bit and say that they're about to go to, King's Landing, and that if the king heard the brother of Corlys Valerian, I don't know the actor's name, but he did a very good job in this episode as well. I think his name is Vaemond Will Johnson. Like, he did an excellent job in one scene in particular that kind of stole the show, in my opinion, right before what happened. But they're going to King's Landing, and also Rhaenyra is going to King's Landing with Daemon. Daemon in this episode also finds 3 dragon eggs. He has like this little mountain climbing expedition and finds them somehow. I don't know if you can just openly find eggs just randomly in places or how they even are laid, but he does find 3. And coincidentally, he does now have 3 children, and one of them is named Valeris after his or after his brother, and Rhaenyra's father, which I liked when they actually met, and uh, Valeris, sorry, Viserys actually met his grandsons and noticed one of them was named after him. It was kind of an emotional scene. I did enjoy that. So you get introduced to the 3 kids. You get a scene where um, Rhaenyra is talking to the oldest, strong boy, and he's learning High Valyrian, and he's taking it seriously. You know, he's shown to be a very responsible young man, at least in this episode, and he looks like he could be a very good leader, kind of like a Jon Snow type. I have my suspicions with the younger brother though, because he seems to like to antagonize um, Aemond later on in the episode. So that's not very Jon Snow like, but yeah, you get a lot of great scenes here. So many good scenes. But the Rhaenyra and Daemon, they go back to King's Landing and they get kind of a sour greeting. Nobody's really there to greet them. They have a few soldiers. Somebody is late coming to greet them. He comes out of the door and basically tells them that they're having rough times. He takes them over to Viserys, and Viserys is this very bad right now. He's very weak. He's very much deteriorating. He's wearing this golden mask to cover up, you know, his face is being eaten alive basically. And he's just in so much pain. And you know, you get this scene where they first enter the room and you pass by Viserys, you know, what he's building, kind of like the toy buildings or like the model of the buildings that he's has in his room. They have all these spider webs on it, like, you know, meaning that he's never touched in a long time. Daemon is very hesitant about going in the room. He doesn't want to see his brother in pain like you. Matt Smith does such a great job in this episode, showing his emotions and showing the pain in his eyes, seeing his brother, you know, in that much agony. And he's very much like hates seeing him like that. And Matt Smith does an excellent job portraying that. Rhaenyra does, you know, an excellent job as well. Emma Darcy, she has a lot of good emotional scenes in this episode as well. And when she first sees her dad, he, you know, she grabs his hand right away, and it's like a very emotional scene because he's just, you know, basically saying we haven't seen each other in so long, and you know, Daemon looks sad and Rhaenyra looks sad as well because they know that, you know, because they love him, you know, and they're very much in pain as well, seeing him in pain, and you see it. So Rhaenyra brings the grandsons in, and he gets a little bit of Viserys gets a little laughter because one of the grandsons are named Viserys, as I said, and you get a little bit of a touching scene as well when he, you know, hears that, because you see this facial reaction and he just kind of smiles, and he starts getting in pain, apologizes, and they basically kind of have to leave the room. But definitely a lot of emotional scenes in this one. Later on, Rhaenyra, and I might not be remembering everything scene by scene. I'll just kind of talk about what I remember. But Rhaenyra gets a scene later on where she visits her father, and her father is kind of like in a daze, you know, kind of in and out of, you know, knowing who he's talking to. Sometimes he thinks he's talking to Alicent in this episode. Sometimes he's talking to Rhaenyra, or thinks he's talking to Rhaenyra when he's talking to Alicent. So he's very much at the end of his road, and Rhaenyra is talking to him and talking about the future, and that she doesn't really want the throne. She thought she wanted it, but she kind of doesn't, and asking him for support. And Viserys at this point is kind of cloudy minded, thinks of her, well, says I think to her that she's his only son or daughter, which obviously is not true. He has total 4 siblings, I believe, and so he's going in and out, and so you can kind of tell that he's not all there in this scene. And which the next scene you get him, well, I think it's the next day, and he talks to Otto Hightower, and he's telling him that he wants all the family to get together tonight for supper. And Otto kind of smart ass says, well, sire, it's morning. And because I think he thinks that Viserys is still cloudy minded. He doesn't know that he's thinking pretty straight at this point, because all the milk of the poppy has worn off from the previous night. And he tells him, I know that. I want you to schedule it for tonight. And so he does. He tells the king that he will. And he actually asks for more milk of the poppy, and the king says, no, I want to be straight minded. You see so much of Viserys' strength in this episode. No matter how weak he looks, this is the strongest I've ever seen him. This is the things that he was able to do in his condition. You get a scene where Otto Hightower is, and this before this scene, I don't want to skip it. There's one scene where we see the boys, the strong kids, going out to looks like a courtyard, and Aemond is fighting Sir Christian Cole. Well, not fighting, they're sparring, using real weapons, mind you, so it looks a little bit life-threatening. And Aemond's doing very well. He's very much going toe-to-toe with Christian Cole, and seems like he's grown quite a bit. Like, even though it's 6 years, it seems like he's about 15 years older. And he notices his nephews, and he says it right away. And the looks of this character, Ewan Mitchell, the facial expressions he has, even with just the one eye patch, he does such a good job. Like, he seems like kind of like a Hannibal Lecter type of crazy type of character with his facial reactions. And he notices his nephews and asks them if they're here to spar, and the strong boys seem like they're a little intimidated. And Corlys Velaryon ends up coming in this scene, and Aemond seems like he's entertained, that he knows shit's about to go down, basically. And you get the next scene where Otto Hightower is about to sit down on the big, chair full of dangerous swords throne. And he's basically acting as king. And he wants to hear the pleas of, or the petitions, I should say, of Corlys's brother and the princess Princess Rhaenys is, I think, her name, I remember now. And then also Rhaenyra. And Daemon has such a good scene in here, and kind of entices his brother, Corlys's brother, to do something very stupid. But before we get there, Otto Hightower hears the case of the brother of Corlys, and right before he finishes pleading Corlys's brother, the king enters. And this is another very emotional scene when he walks in, the strength that it would have had to take somebody in his condition to walk 10 feet had to be very immense. And he was able to do it. And it was very emotional. They had very good music in the scene, kind of like triumphant music as he was walking to the throne. And he tells Otto that I will sit the throne today, which I loved. Very, very good line. Loved this scene. And as he's walking up the throne, he accidentally drops his throne he's wearing. And Damon comes by, picks up his throne, and helps him. Well, not helps him, tells him that let's go ahead and make it to, your chair, basically. He doesn't really help him like get up there physically, but he gives him the strength verbally to do it himself. Because he was very adamant about making up there himself because a knight previously tried to help him and he was just like, no, don't worry, I got this. So I love that scene. It showed Damon's respect for his brother and the love that they still have. So I enjoyed, seeing that. So it really paid off, having Damon kind of distance, being distanced with his brother, throughout this whole series, and having Viserys, keep trying to reach out to Damon and not being able, to basically reach out. And in this episode, you feel like they actually came to an understanding and put aside their differences, which I really like to see. But when he sits down on the throne, he is confused. He thinks this matter has been solved already and wondering why we're talking about this again because he's already figured out the line of succession. So the brother of Corlys starts talking and it gets a little heated to the point where Damon looks into Corlys's brother's eyes and tells him to say it. And I love his facial reaction here, from both actors. I mean, the person who played the brother, again, his name was Will Johnson, who played Vaemond. He did such a good job in this scene. Like, he was just so believable. You felt his anger and like he thinks he's being mistreated, and you felt that from the character. And he screams out bastard, out of a challenge from Damon. And King Viserys stands up, pulls out his knife, and the brother of Corlys, Vaemond, turns around, looks at the king, and Vaemond cuts his fucking head off from his mouth across. And it was a great scene. That's basically what Damon wanted, you know. And you see Aemon on the sidelines as Damon did that, kind of like, I'm learning. This is exactly who I want to be like, basically. So, scene ends, and you get another scene where Princess Rhaena is looking over as Vaemond is getting, I guess, mummified, or like his organs are getting taken out or whatever. And I don't know if she's thinking about something in this scene because the camera kind of lingers on her and she doesn't have really an expression of sadness or of grief or anything like that. She just seems like she's thinking about something, like how can she use this, or did I do the right thing, kind of thing. But the next scene here we get is the dinner scene. And this was another very emotional filled scene. Everyone is gathered around the dinner table. Rhaenyra and Alicent are pretty much like right next to each other and with a little space for Viserys. And before Viserys gets there, the camera, has Alicent and Rhaenyra just, basically so close together. The king comes in and he's, when he sits down and gets settled down, he tells everyone that he's happy to see everyone here and that he's upset that everyone basically doesn't like each other. And you know, the speech that he has, you know, is very, very emotional. You know, he just tells him, you know, and I'm gonna be paraphrasing, but he just basically tells him that he wants them all to get along, that he loves them so very, very deeply, and that, you know, he's not only their king, grandfather, father, husband, you know, what have you, but he's a person that, you know, cares for them so much, you know. And if not, you know, if you don't get along for him, let me say that again. If you don't get along for his sake, like him being the king, then at least, you know, start getting along for this old man, basically. And you felt so much for Viserys in this moment. Like, he's just been wanting his family to just get along. He's been trying so hard to squash all the animosity and then also deal with his health condition. And at this point, he just wants to lay all the cards out on the table and have everyone squash whatever feelings of hatred that anybody has for every, you know, each other. That has divided House of the Dragon is, you know, a weak House of the Dragon, and that they must unite. And you get this, you know, scene where after Viserys sits down and has his emotional speech, Rhaenyra stands up because she was very moved, I think, from Viserys's, you know, words, and she thanks Alicent for being such a loyal wife to her father, and that she says that she respects her very much for that, and that she's, you know, sorry for not realizing that sooner. And then Alicent stands up and basically says that, you know, that they're both mothers and that they have a lot more in common than they both want to realize, and basically kind of, you know, almost forgive each other, you know, in front of Viserys. And Viserys, you know, after Alicent speaks, you know, drinks his cup right away because they were toasting each other, you know, as a sign of thank God, you know, thank you both for doing this. This is what I want. You know, my last wish in this world is for you guys to get along. And in this scene, you get, you know, other people toasting. You have, um, not Aemon, but Aegon toasting, saying that, apologizing to the Valerian sisters and saying that because they're about to marry the strong kids, saying that, you know, if you can't get pleasure from your new husband, basically come see me, trying to start some animosity. And I gotta respect the older strong kid because he holds his tongue. He got pissed at first, you know, hits the table as soon as he heard that, and, you know, basically steps back and says, you know, basically, I wish you good fortune, cousin. You know, takes the high road, basically. But then 10 seconds later, he goes up to his Aegon's wife, which is also his sister, and asks her to dance. But that's not before the sister stands up and says, "Hey, being married is not too bad. He mostly ignores you most of the time unless he's drunk." And you get this little, you know, scene where Otto is laughing and chuckling at that, kind of like he's proud of his niece, or not niece, but granddaughter, saying that. So they're dancing, you know, the older strong boy, and then also the princess, is it Helena? And they're dancing a little bit, and you get this camera directed right on Viserys, and you see him noticing everyone is having, you know, a good time. Like, everyone's laughing, and you see him like kind of taking a sigh of relief, you know, like he's very, very happy at this moment seeing his family getting along. Like, I loved the scene, even when they slowly, you know, left the camera on him, and he's just kind of looking at everyone in the room and making eye contact with Rhaenyra and his wife. It was just, so great to see. Like the whole season, I felt like it's kind of been building up for that moment. I feel like King Viserys is pretty much the Edward Stark of this season, and we just basically been seeing him slowly dying, and at the and the whole time he's just trying to do what's right for his family. So very emotional scene, and when he sees all this happiness, you start seeing him like starting to feel the pain again because he hasn't been taking any milk with a poppy because he wanted to be clear minded, and they had to bring him out of the room, and it was just so sad to see. Um, when they brought him out at the same time, a roasted pig was coming in, being brought on, and it was put right in front of Aemond. Now I don't know who orchestrated the pig to come in, but the youngest, not the youngest, but the middle strong boy, starts chuckling at Aemon, which is not a good idea. So it looks like maybe he was the culprit. Um, and Aemon gets pissed, slams on the table, and I love this scene here. He does such a good job. Like he was telling all the strong kids basically, he's basically saying his last toast of the night, and he's saying, "You guys are handsome. You guys are brave." Then he pauses a little bit, and strong, and you just felt like, oh shit, like, oh damn, like he went there, and the strong boys obviously get pissed, and the oldest one says, say it again, and Aemon was just like, what, uh, you don't think you're strong? Like he just keeps kind of bringing that strong thing up, and the oldest strong boy can't take it anymore, so he punches him, and you see Aemon just kind of like, yeah, I got what I wanted, and just pushes him to the ground because he knows he can beat the living crap out of him. He just wanted to cause a little drama at this moment to let the boys know that he's still coming after him, basically. And you get the scene where Daemon gets in between as one of the oldest strong boys was about to come after Aemon again. And he tells, all the strong boys basically get behind him and go back to your quarters. And he looks at Aemon, and he basically looks like he's kind of proud to see Aemon. Like, oh, okay. Like, I can see the apple then far too far from the tree. Like you take after me. Like you're cut from the same cloth, and you kind of see that. And Aemon looks at Daemon like he's thinking about it. Like he's thinking about attacking his uncle right now, but then decides not to. And as they look at each other, and the looks like Daemon didn't have to say a word. Like his expression said 1,000 words. And you see him as Aemon decides not to attack. Basically, he walks away, and Daemon looks at Rhaenyra, kind of chuckles like he's proud of him, and then walks out of the room. But I loved that scene. They both played very well off each other. Basically, the same person. um, and you get the last episode of the show, or of the episode, or last episode of the episode. The last scene of the episode is what I meant to say, and it's another emotional scene. Alicent is talking to Viserys, and before this, before even getting to this scene, Alicent and Rhaenyra seem like they're getting along, and Rhaenyra says she just wanted to take her boys back to Dragonstone, and she would come back on Dragon to, basically visit and spend time, I guess, again. So it's going to be interesting to find out if that actually happened. But Alicent and Viserys are talking on the bed, and I don't know if Viserys thinks he's talking to Alicent or if he's talking to Rhaenyra, because he kind of comes in and out. Like when he was talking to Rhaenyra previously, it's almost like he was talking to Alicent, or at least he thought he was. So in this scene, he mentions, Aemond, and about the future, and saying that he wants Aemon to rule, and that's kind of the same thing he told to Rhaenyra, and to the story that he thinks of the future fight between ice and fire. So I think they're getting the story mixed up, and Alicent, might use this as a way to start it up again with Rhaenyra and start that fight again of who's going to take power. And we know we're getting there, right? Because there has to be a Targaryen civil war, but it was just kind of almost refreshing in a way, seeing Alicent and Rhaenyra kind of coming to terms with each other, and looks like they might have a future relationship positively. But obviously we're not going to ever see that because we have to get to the civil war. So yeah, she might use Viserys as basically time of weakness, because I don't think he knew who he was talking to. His basically want of Aemon to rule, misunderstanding. She might use that for her conquest to have her son rule. So very, very good episode. I was very drawn in every scene. I pretty much got teary eyed at least 2 or 3 times. Like Viserys, the actor Paddy Considine did so well. Like, he stole the show for me. Like, I felt, I don't know, when something is good, you feel like emotions, and he made me feel emotions. Like, he definitely made me emotional. He felt his pain, and he just really wanted to see him happy. And when you actually got to see him happy in that one, ending scene where he saw his family all eating together, laughing, and having a good time, it was a very good ending to a story, and I'm glad he got to see that at least before he died. And Aemon and Daemon, like I said, they played very, very well off each other, and I enjoyed the scene that they had. That was very good. Alicent and Rhaenyra, Olivia Cook and Emma Darcy, and as normal, just like the previous 2 episodes, they did a very good job. Like, all the actors in this episode did fantastic. Like, there was no actor that was off. Like, there was even an actor that played, I guess it was like a helper or a handmaiden or something, that basically got attacked by Aegon, and like the emotional scene that she had, and we're probably never going to see her again. I mean, even that small little scene, she did an excellent job. So, and Aemon, by the way, is like a little prick. Like, he's not fit to be a king, which I think is the reason why I think Alicent is leaning more towards what Sarah said about Aemon ruling, even though he didn't mean this Aemon. But yeah, very, very good episode. I'm very excited to see episode 9, and I think we're going up to 10 on this season. So I'm excited to see how they end it, because these next 2 episodes have to be pretty intense as far as drama and action is concerned, because you got to think that they're going to start fighting soon. Because in this episode, they're pretty much ready to. At least the sons were. So, anyways, guys, I loved everything about this episode. Hopefully, you guys did enjoy my breakdown of it. Everything I just said right now is based off memory, so hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, please hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll catch you on the next review. I appreciate it. Catch you next time.